Good afternoon. Today's inspiration comes from sunny Bournemouth, home of Premier Football, a growing tech scene, I believe, and is also the HQ of Platinum. And I'm joined today by Richard Davies, who is MD of Platinum Asset Management, entrepreneur, developer, adventurer, a man with many hats. And the main reason I really wanted to come and see Richard was he's a great example of how you can, in fact, run businesses, have commitments, have family, have mortgages, and go off and do incredible things like cycling to Everest Base Camp. So thank you very much for joining us, Richard. You go to a party, as Brits do, we all ask each other, what do you do? For a man with so many hats, how on earth do you answer that?
Okay. Yeah, that's always been a challenge because I've got quite a big personal life commitment. So who I am is really an ultra runner. That's right now. I used to be a mountain bike racer, but I'm also a businessman. So yeah, it's not that easy actually. Normally when you go to kind of a social events, you actually you just want to give an answer and you just want to move on, right? So it's trying to find a sort of an answer to that question without kind of them asking you again and again and again, and then 3 hours later you're still trying to explain it. Yeah.
So that sort of brings us on to this whole idea of trying to balance the two. There are lots of people who go off and do amazing adventures. There are lots of people who are very successful in business. There are far fewer people who manage to run successful businesses and still carve out the time to go off and do some of the amazing things you've done, like cycling to Everest Base Camp, run Marathon des Sables and so on. When it comes to the balance, how do you prioritise? What comes first?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the business always has to come first because I've got responsibility to people. I've got responsibility to a lot of staff and paying their salaries. So that's always got to come first. The challenge is basically shifting that responsibility and making it more efficient, putting it into a corner so actually you free yourself up for all the other things you want to kind of do. And then there's lots of tricks, right? So, and it's an ongoing process of learning, really. Yeah.
But if a major client, for example, or a major joint venture partner said to you, look, we've got this big project on, I really need you here, and you had a massive adventure planned, are you suggesting the adventure gets delayed, or you find ways around it?
I've not yet found something which I can't work around. And in these days, obviously, sort of modern technology makes it a lot easier. But if I can't solve it through sort of sat phones and things like that, and it was going to be a big thing, and it was going to affect the business, then I would have to look at it. I hope I never have to make that decision then.
Quite often I meet people and they can point to a moment in life or an event, and sadly quite often it's something not good that's happened to somebody close to them that tells them, do you know what, there's more to life than work. Do you think there's been a pivotal moment in your life that made you think, actually, I do want to go off and do other stuff as well? Or have you always been into pushing yourself physically and so on, and this is just a logical extension?
I think we're all trying to find answers. And for me, I've always been very inquisitive about life. And yeah, there has been things that have gone on in my life which basically spur me to do things. Only last year I had a good friend of mine die. I live a large part of my life in Chamonix, and Chamonix is a place where people die. It's there, and people accept it, and it's a part of the culture when you live in a place that's inherently dangerous. And actually, when the people that you know, the people I know over there are incredibly inspirational to me, including this guy who said to me not long before he died that actually if he died what he was doing, he'd much prefer that to sitting behind a desk for 40 years. So he loved what he was doing, and it was actually those words that kind of resonate with me. It's like, which you just, you only have one life. So in some ways, I do find death and certain things in my life kind of motivational. the question as to why I kind of do certain things. You know, sometimes I'm in places where actually I'm not having a good time. But you put yourself there. You know you're not going to have a good time at certain points, but it's like a roller coaster. And it's those times where you're not having a good time, you do ask yourself the obvious question, what the hell am I doing? Right? But actually, and it's times when you actually have chance to reflect in the comfort of your home, that you also ask yourself, why are you doing these things? And I think for me it's about adventure. The word adventure for me just means about just going out there and exploring and pushing yourself and finding parts about yourself that basically you didn't think were possible.
Yeah. And when you're on these adventures, shit happens, as we know. Things go wrong, not through your own fault. It's the nature of the beast. When every sinew of your body is telling you, stop, this is crazy, this is now dangerous, or you're at risk of causing permanent harm to yourself, or frankly, it's just hell on earth and you would rather be anywhere than that particular moment during that activity, what keeps you going?
I think there's two separate points there, right? So if I ever felt to myself that I was going to do myself some permanent damage, that's very different to just being in a lot of pain. The being in pain is just something that basically suffering is what you end up having to go through to get to the other side. And actually, what you'll find in for example, ultra running is a period where you go through good times and bad. And it's been described as it's not dissimilar to a life condensed into one short race, where you have good times and bad times, and you have to go through the internal communication so you manage your state. But actually, one of the questions you're asking yourself is, am I about to do something which has got permanent issues? So if you're actually going to do yourself some permanent harm, then you might consider stopping, okay? Unless you're stupid, right? For me, it's about actually health is very important. And it's not about just trying to push myself to get over that line no matter what. It's about creating a whole life is my adventure, So there's different circumstances. Danger and things like that, I'm actually very risk averse. Pain I can you learn to deal with.
When you're going through the pain, some people I speak to mention individuals in their lives. Quite a few people talk about teammates or their parents or their partner, somebody who effectively they don't want to let down in terms of motivating themselves to keep going. Is there somebody who sort of sits on your shoulder ever, reminds you, if you stop, you might regret this for the rest of your life? Yes, you're in pain, but just keep going.
No, it's just me. Yeah, I'm not much of a team player, right?
Yeah.
I kind of do work with teams, obviously, in my business and all my adventure sports. I have coaches, I have nutritionists, I have people around me, but ultimately I'm in charge.
Yeah.
And for me, the main person I'm going to let down is me. I'm the one who's responsible. So everything I do it just for me. Yeah. I mean, to be quite frank with you, the loneliest part of what the adventure stuff that I do is not really being able to express to other people what I've been through, because you wouldn't get it. The only other people that would get it would be other ultra runners, because they've been through it with you. And that's what actually makes that community incredibly strong, and an amazing group of people. All people that basically push themselves, go through a tremendous kind of suffering and in the name of adventure, and they're doing it for themselves. I think if you look at most adventurers I've met, they don't last very long unless they're doing it for themselves.
Yeah.
It's not so much about the events, okay? Because events tend to be kind of races, really. I mean, those are the things that basically you and there's some fantastic races around the world. and that's a coming together of like-minded souls, and there's a certain element of safety element brought into that kind of thing. But actually, the build-up, the training to get to those races, they are all pretty much on your own. So I spend 95% of my time training in the mountains in Chamonix or wherever I happen to be going. I kind of put my shoes on, go running. And those are my own private kind of adventures. So that's 95% of my bulk. It's just the things that everyone thinks about is the race or the big event. But that's just the icing on the cake.
I guess sacrifices have to be made. It goes back to if for example, your wife partner says, do you know what, maybe the kids are struggling at school, something's going on, please don't go and cycle to Everest this year. What happens then?
She's never said that to me, right? I mean, one of the benefits is she's very passionate about her horses. So if you know anyone who's into horses, then they get very single focused on that. And so is our daughter. So they do off there. I can go off a week sometimes, and I don't think they even know I've gone. Of course, if she actually asked me to stay, I would certainly think about it. What you tend to find about adventurers as well, they do tend to be quite selfish. They do tend to be loners. I'm an only child. I'm used to being on my own and I like being on my own for long periods of time. They do tend to be kind of selfish and very sort of single focused, really. But I'd like to say that if she did ask me to stay, I would stay.
Thanks.
I think the biggest issue is actually the unspoken aspect of what would happen if something went wrong. I don't dwell on it with my wife. I've just made provisions financially for her that if something happened to me, then she'd be looked after. But I think that's something which I think she's probably switched off from. She switched off that. When I think she was certainly attracted to the fact that I was a free spirit and all those sorts of things in the same way that she is. But then I think actually it dawned on her that actually some of the things that I do are dangerous. As much as you try to sort of remove the danger, it's impossible. So I think there was a time I think where she was actually starting to express that, and she knew that actually it wasn't going to go anywhere, right? And I think ever since then it was like, okay, I think all relationships have that, where they might sort of, there's some bits they can't resolve, and they have to kind of just ignore it, really. I don't think she sits at home sort of worrying too much, but she does know in the back of her mind there could be a day that she gets a bad call.
Yeah. Is danger part of it for you? If there was zero danger, would that remove some of the appeal and challenge for you?
I've definitely got an adrenaline kind of aspect of what I do. Those normally come out in sort of things with speed, so I'm interested in things which are fast, and I've probably moved away from that a bit, and these days I'm a little bit more focused on the endurance aspect rather than the danger aspect. But there again, I'm still exploring lots of things. One of the areas I'm looking at going down is doing a lot more paragliding, and there's different paraglide races where you can basically, it's point-to-point paraglide, and that has an adrenaline, but also has the endurance aspect. So running up mountains and jumping off them with a paraglider, that appeals to me for two reasons. The running up the mountain there is an element of danger, but actually that's not why you're doing it. You're doing it to actually push your body. The jumping off the mountain, you're not doing it because it's dangerous, because the people who do that, they die, right? People who basically, they jump off because actually they want to be free. They want to push themselves in a particular way and test the boundaries of freedom. So jumping off the top of a mountain that you've just run up has a meaning to me. Yeah. It's not a spiritual meaning, but it has a meaning that will last with me. It will give me something where I'll remember. It gives me my life a kind of texture.
Yes.
It's not the danger that I'm looking for. Things that I do have a dangerous aspect to it, but I'm always looking for ways to sort of avoid the danger. So that's proper training, basically. Yeah.
Is it fair to say, it seems to me most things you do in the adventure world require fairly extreme fitness. Is that part of the appeal? Because I think when we spoke on the phone, you mentioned for the time being you like pushing yourself. Perhaps when knees and so on aren't so able later in life, you might start looking at some other activities like sailing and so on. So is part of it the pushing your physical self to its limit, finding out how far you can go?
Yeah, I mean, the fitness is fantastic. I mean, some of the things I find the ability to do certain things that I don't think possible. That's what fitness gives you. Yeah. Looking up at the top of a mountain and just going, I'm going to run up there, and actually you're running up there and you're feeling as though you're flying. Fun enough, you feel more like you're flying as you're going up than as you come down. It's about attainability and the fact that you're doing it using just your body, and that you're surprising yourself that actually that you're finding something easy. That's what fitness gives you. An example of that, how it works with my business. I was in Chamonix last week testing a new diet regime, and I was doing 7 marathons in 7 days. I've got a lot on at the moment, so I every day I was running a marathon, Monday to Friday, and I had my mobile phone with a sort of Bluetooth microphone, and I'm making phone calls for virtually the whole time, and being able to run up a mountain and have do conference calls and stuff like that. That only becomes possible when you're fit, and most people didn't even know I was running. Yeah. So it's those sorts of things. The fitness does open a huge aspect to you. It allows you to do certain things and that gives you a sense of freedom as well. Yeah.
And speaking of mixing the two, how do your clients react when they hear you're in Chamonix or you're off for a month cycling to Everest or whatever your next project might be? Do you think they look at it and they think, do you know what? Actually, what you do outside of your business brings so many transferable skills into the business world that they think it's fantastic? Or do they need a bit of convincing that maybe this guy's not so serious about business if he's off doing these other things?
It didn't really affect me because the area of the business that I'm mostly focused on. Otherwise, I look after a lot of the finances of the group. But the main place I'm focused is the property business, where I'm the managing director. I don't really have direct contact with the clients. I'm normally working with teams of surveyors or lawyers and those sorts of people, and they just know what I get up to. There's an element of them thinking the biggest challenge I found with them, with those guys, and with my internal staff, is to get them around the idea that when I go away, I'm not on holiday. I'm available for phone calls, so I'm actually around. I'm around by email. So, and that's been the biggest challenge with when I go away, is simply other people's idea that I shouldn't be disturbed. Now people get it. People get that I'm in Chamonix. I'm away. I'm training. I can phone me, and I can answer.
Does that ruin it at all? Because plenty of people, when they go away, admittedly probably more for a holiday than training, the last thing they want is a client or a business colleague to get on the phone and tell them something's gone wrong. It sounds like to you accept that this is part of the trade-off.
Yeah,
you run a business, things can't stop.
I love what I do. I mean, I'm doing big property deals. I've closed. I don't know. I've got a lot of my deals I've closed on the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
And I'm climbing with a group of climbers who are, and they're annoyed that I'm on the phone as I'm climbing. But I love the fantastic closing a deal as you're climbing a mountain is awesome. And so for me, it's just I can't think of anything better I'd like to do than doing business and doing my adventure.
Well, out of interest, what made you choose property? What is it about it that's...
I got into it in about 93,
Precisely.
90, about 92, 93. And I was very fortunate to work with a guy called John Hunt, who was the owner of a company called Foxtons. And John, everyone knows John as just this guy who sold Foxtons, but actually he was an amazing businessman, an amazing property mind. And so I was very fortunate to spend a few years working with John, and some of his talent brushed off on me, I think. And I like it. I love the fact that bricks and mortar, but I can walk into a building, I can look at it, and I have a sense of how to actually add value. And that's really what business is all about. It's about adding value. And if you can't see how, instinctively feel how you can actually add value, then basically you're in the wrong game.
You mentioned earlier that you enjoy adventures on your own and so on, you do it for yourself. It sounds as if, though, John Hunt might be a little bit of an inspiration to you.
Yeah, it was, for sure. Yeah.
And just in the business world, or do you feel you learn other...
I know he was just he's just fantastic amazing businessman. But actually, his attitude to us, he was tough, very tough man actually, mentally, but also fair, and a good guy.
Team Awesome. A little birdie tells me you've got an exciting new project for people who want to get out there and do stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about it and how people can get in touch and what it involves?
So Team Awesome was basically something which was started in the summer of 2015. I'm fortunate enough that I've managed to go out and get some training from some of the best coaches in the world, and they teach me some tricks to be able to run 100 miles. And there is some tricks that you have to kind of follow, and I offered to the staff who work at Platinum, anyone who wants to come out running with me, then and I'll teach you how to run. A lot of people just think running is just running, right? That you don't need, but actually it's quite technical. Most people run too fast, so actually a big part of it was just taking them out running, and 3 brave souls basically put up their hand and said they'll go out for a run with me, and I showed them how to run in the right way, and we formed this group called Team Awesome. The website is teamawesome.life, and we've now, because we've got quite a large, within the Platinum group, we've got a large circle of influence. Now that Team Awesome now is spreading through that circle of influence out from just our staff to some of the people that work within the buildings that we own, through a mixture of teaching people about what it means to be moving and how food works. It's aimed at giving people some control over their life. A lot of people don't really feel control of their weight, for example. They want to lose weight, but they don't really know how, and they read different messages that basically might make them confused, and then they get back into the excuse mode. I just don't know kind of how it works, so sod it, I'm going to eat that donut. Team Awesome is about encouraging people to go on a journey that basically makes them healthier and happier. You know, I've known a few people in my life who've been very successful business people, but something's gone wrong. Either they got ill or someone in their family or someone they loved got ill, and they would swap everything they've ever accumulated, all their money, all their business, in an instant to get health and happiness, and health for them or their loved ones. So it occurs to me that why don't people make it a priority whilst they go? If it's that important that you would give up your life's work in an instant to averse some health disaster, why not actually make the health important as you're going through life? And that's really the essence of Team Awesome. Team Awesome's there basically to encourage people to kind of start their own journey. Doesn't mean they have to go and become ultra runners. It just means that they actually start understanding, and we dispel a lot of the myths and the fallacies about food and exercise and things like that to get people kind of on the right track.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much for your time.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it. Good luck and look forward to hearing about the next adventures.
Thanks very much.